Hello all, I'm back, and there's a lot to catch up on. I apologize for my unscheduled hiatus, but certain things came up between work becoming crazy and taking up a lot of my time, a lot more of my time than it's supposed to. And won't go into details, we'll just leave it at that. But the big thing that kept me away from making videos was last week I threw my back out, which hurt a lot. It was very painful. It was one of those weird things. I went to go pick up my baby, and my back was like, "No, you're not." Thank God I didn't drop her, but it was. I felt the pain shoot up my back, and then my legs went numb, and I just kind of crumpled over, and I was in so much pain that I couldn't even speak to verbalize what was wrong. So I scared the holy hell out of my very sleepy, very sick wife, who she was going through a sinus infection, and she wasn't in the best shape either. And I was like, I was finally able to spit out. It's like, I can't feel my legs, and my back hurts. So, really threw us through a loop. I ended up going to the emergency room, feeling returned back into my legs. Fortunately, I actually ended up driving myself to the emergency room, which was a very, very stupid thing to do, especially after my legs went numb, but I did it, didn't crash the car, I made it. And they examined me and said that all of the pain was muscular. Thank God. It was a sprain or a strain on my back muscles. And nothing severe, nothing long term. Thank God, because I was that first minute after it happened was probably the scariest minute of my entire life, because I had all these things going through my head where I was like, we can't never tell my baby that she's the reason I'm paralyzed and I can't use my legs anymore. Like, these are the thoughts that were going through my head as it was going on. But yeah, it was pretty crazy. But with all that back pain, it kind of kept me away from making videos, obviously, because I was not in the best shape. And man, between all of that and the heart monitor stuff that I went through earlier, it's like, man, I really am getting old. This is no bueno, no bueno. But yeah, it was a very scary moment for me, and I gotta say, like, being a wrestling fan, who's never been trained, never taken a bump or anything. Well, I've fallen down plenty of times in my life. I actually fell out of bed yesterday. That was that was a fun bump to take, but in this case, I didn't take a bump to hurt my back or anything, and it was pretty scary to completely lose feeling in the lower half of your body. So it's one of those moments that helped me gain an added appreciation for the performers that go out there every night and risk life and limb to entertain us. And it's one of those things where it's like, dude, they go out there every night and any one thing could go wrong and that's it. And all kinds of horrible things have happened inside the ring, and some of it, like, you look at what happened to Sid the night he twisted his leg around. That was a fairly simple spot, but it was the worst thing ever for him. And it had a very grisly result. And, you look at the Undertaker-Goldberg match, and it's like one little mistime on Goldberg's part completely threw the thing out of whack and created one of the scariest matches of all time. So yeah, going through what I went through, is like, man, these people, they have the thoughts that I was having in that first minute, like, those are the type of things that go through their heads all the time. But it must, because they're constantly putting their bodies in harm's way for the sake of telling a story. And that's, I have a deeper appreciation for it, because my minor incident was something that's on the forefront of their mind all the friggin' time. And, yeah, and they deserve, they deserve all the props and respect. And, I think of, like, I remember hearing about, like, Britt Baker having back problems, which, when those reports started coming out, I was like, yeah, I could kind of tell that something was wrong with her in the ring, where it's like she wasn't, like, her bumping and her timing seemed a little bit off. And when I heard about the back pains, I'm like, yeah, that definitely adds up to what I've been seeing on screen. So, again, it's one of those things that they deal with that stuff on a constant basis, and I wish them all good luck moving forward with their careers, because it is going through what I went through for just just really one bad day and then a week of recovery was very scary. And And like I said, that's the type of thing that they deal with constantly, and it's the lively, and that's their life basically. And yeah, again, all props and respects to anybody involved in the wrestling business and do what they do, because it is a very, very it's there's a lot of fear that goes into working that kind of life. So, what is there to talk about in the world of professional wrestling? A lot of updates to go through. We got the NXT TNA partnership, which is underway. Joe Hendry made his NXT debut the other night and kind of broke the internet. And I gotta say, I have a funny feeling that this NXT TNA partnership is going to turn into Vince McMahon 1983, like raiding the territories of talent. Like, this is going to turn into like all the TNA guys that are worth a damn are all of a sudden going to start showing up in NXT. Like, Kazarian's already been there. Jordan Grace, they're clearly high on. They're going to give her a contract when her time in TNA is up or whatever. Like, they're going to try and get her for sure. And I'm wondering, it's like, man, is this going to turn into TNA getting raided? It's like, man, at the start of the year, TNA had some buzz going, and that is all pretty much gone now, except for this NXT partnership, which again I think is going to result with them losing everybody that's worth a darn. So I don't know, but again, we'll see. But I was happy for Joe Hendry; he deserves that. He's a guy who's been one of the bright spots in Impact Wrestling TNA for the last couple of years, and is a fun character and a fun gimmick, and he's the type of guy that I think he'd do well on a bigger stage. I was happy for him that he got that in that moment, even though it wasn't exactly a glorious showcase of his in-ring abilities. It was still like the fact that he showed up there and got such a big reaction is indicative of some of the potential that he has. And what else has been going on? We've got Forbidden Door coming up with AEW. We got the brackets for the Owen Hart tournaments, which are going to shape. I mean, I'm so sick of tournaments right now. There have been way too many of them, and it's like whenever I see there's a tournament, I just tune out at this point. And I gotta, and this was gonna shape a video that I'm planning. I guess I'll talk about this now. A video that I'm thinking about doing is my top 10 favorite wrestlers to watch right now, like on the active rosters right now on television. That's WWE, AEW, which are really the only wrestling I watch on a weekly basis. Who are my top 10 favorites to watch right now? And this ties into what I'm saying about tournaments, because right now, more than in any other point in my time as a wrestling fan, the matches are probably the least important part of the show because they are so long and take up so much of the programming, and they all look the same. The endings, the outcomes are predictable, because I can tell, like, and this is AEW and WWE, for sure. It's like, if you put two people in a match together, I go, okay, who's got a program? Who's got a title? Chances are the champion or the person with the program is going to ultimately win the match. Or if two people are having a feud and one of the people is in a match to set up a match with the other guy, it's like, all right, so and so is going to win that match because he's feuding with the other guy, and it wouldn't make sense for the other guy to win. And the matches have become extremely predictable. I think I can, at least on television, pay-per-view, it's a different story because that's when the big title matches are and the big storylines come to a head. But when it comes to television matches, like, I can correctly predict 95% of the matches on there. Which, when that's the case, I'm like, all right, you might as well just do jobber matches like in the old days at that point, because other than that, who cares? But you've got the predictability on top of the fact that all of the matches are so freaking long now that I skip over most of those because I typically watch the shows the next day on DVR just to kind of keep abreast of what's going on. And the matches are so skippable because they don't mean anything. Because it's like, I know who's going to win a vast majority of the time. And all the matches look the same because they're all the same competitive 50-50, Kurt Angle style, Ring of Honor style match. Like, I know exactly what they're going to look like. And so I was thinking about doing a video of my top 10 favorite wrestlers to watch, because there are wrestlers that when they pop on, if I'm fast forwarding and they pop up, I'm like, okay, let me stop and watch this person because I know that this is going to be good for, not necessarily because of the wrestling, but because of like something they're going to say or something they're going to do or something about their character that I find intriguing. And I think that would be a fun video to do. So that'll probably be next week's, but But yeah, so AEW right now, they're doing 2 tournaments back to back because yay. And because WWE just did it now. And great, I know that the Owen Hart tournament thing has become an annual thing for AEW. I don't think they're copying the King and Queen of the Ring. It's just that there have been so many freaking tournaments lately that I just tune out like whenever they're going out. It's like, whatever, I'll see you at the finals and we'll see who wins. And that's all I got to say about that. But MJF is back. He had a really good match with Roosh, which I don't say that often. Roosh matches aren't exactly the most exciting thing in the world, but I'm glad to have MJF back. It's nice to have a big star back on AEW programming, and he did a stare down with Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay's getting the title shot against Swerve Strickland, so I'm thinking, we got an Ospreay versus MJF at the Dome because, the tournament's coming up and there's a wild card spot who's going to be facing Jeff Jarrett in the first round. And I'm like, give that spot to MJF. Give it to MJF and let him main event at All In again against Will Ospreay. That could be, that's an interesting pairing to say the least. Because some of the guys that when I'm fast forwarding through the shows and some of the ones I stop on are typically the MJFs and the Will Ospreays, at least on the AEW side of things. And I think the idea of a pairing between those two, I think, is very interesting. So, we'll see how all of that goes. But WWE program, Raw this week felt like a big deal because there was a lot of stuff that came to a head storyline-wise. Seth Rollins came back. Drew McIntyre quit, which is obviously setting him up to beat up Punk and set up their match, which is fine. I should note, I did not see Clash at the Castle because I was too busy celebrating Father's Day this weekend. I had a big meetup with my dad, and then Sunday was all about me and my first Father's Day, and I took time to celebrate that. So I ended up not watching Clash at the Castle. None of the results surprised me all that much. Went down pretty much mostly how I expected it. So, but anyway, Drew McIntyre quit, which is going to further build into his ultimate showdown with Punk. I'm completely okay with that. We got Otis and the rest of Alpha Academy finally turning their back on Chad Gable, which felt like a big storyline development. That was big for the show. So it felt like a lot of stuff kind of came to a head on Raw this week. It was a big deal, and Braun Breaker is moving up the ranks of the IC title reigns. I say give that man everything because Braun Breaker is a star in the making. I'm still not the biggest fan of the name. I think Rex Steiner would have been a much cooler name for him, but he is, okay, when I do that top 10 wrestlers video, Braun Breaker's going to be on that list because he is definitely one of the ones that I enjoy watching the most. But the big thing that happened on Raw this week was the debut of the Wyatt Six. A very memorable debut where they apparently murdered the Raw roster. Excuse me. It left them bloodied and battered backstage as they all came out with their animal masks on stage to end the show on. I mean, they left a mark in the debut, when you're making a debut, like, on the scale of 1 to 10 of great debuts, 1 being, like, Shockmaster and 10 being, like, Kane in 1997, this ranks somewhere as, like, a 6 or something, not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but got my attention, and I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. I don't have a lot of faith in the long-term potential of the Wyatt Six because Bray Wyatt is not involved, obviously. And you look at the talents that are involved, and it's like, I don't know. I like Nikki Cross. I don't know if she can be Sister Abigail and carry that element of the Bray Wyatt character moving forward. I always liked Bo Dallas, but I never saw him as like a main event star. I always thought that Bo Dallas was a guy that would be like a great comedy gimmick, like a Buff Bagwell. I just watched the Dark Side of the Ring Buff Bagwell episode. Buff Bagwell was great for what he was, and that was a hateable, punchable heel that you wanted to see get beat up. And he was great for that. And I think Bo Dallas has that same kind of element to him, where it's like he's got a punchable face, he's obnoxious, and you want to watch him get beat up. So I don't know if this Uncle Howdy thing is kind of playing against his type, and I don't know, but the Uncle Howdy character was not very good. I mentioned before Bray passed that this was like the weakest thing that Bray Wyatt was ever attached to, and it never really got to fully materialize, and then of course he passed away, so we never really got to see what that was ultimately going to become, but it wasn't working for me even while Bray Wyatt was there. And I just don't have a lot of faith in the long-term potential of this. Maybe it'll work. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But the debut was, it left a mark and it got people talking. So there's definitely that. So that was certainly something that stood out to me on Raw this week. But yeah, going back to what I was saying earlier, like wrestling programming. There's certain guys that I enjoy watching, but there's something severely lacking in storylines and making the matches interesting. Again, and this is where it's like, have we finally had our fill of like the work rate? Have the work rate junkies finally had their fill where they've gotten enough 3, 4, and 5-star matches on TV every week to where that just does not matter anymore at all, especially when the outcomes are predictable? And can we get back to where the angles, the promos, and the storylines are really what drive the television episodes? And this is, I've been hard on Russo. Many people have been hard on Vince Russo, but I think, he took it too far in a lot of cases. But, when he would swerve people to kind of keep the matches and the storylines unpredictable, I can understand that mindset, because when you settle into predictable tropes and predictable formulas and predictable storylines, then it's like the show becomes dull. And I feel like there's a lot of that going on, especially with the matches, where it's, like I said, I can accurately predict a vast majority of the matches that happen on TV every week, because you just know. It's like, okay, who's the bigger star, who's got the storyline, who's feuding with who's the champion, and you can kind of tell who's going to win what matches, a majority of the time. And there's something to kind of having like a Vince Russo style mindset to kind of like help work around that and make the matches and all the storylines more exciting with like well-timed swerves. Now, in Russo's case, like I said, he would go too far and he would drive everything to where nothing mattered and everything was kind of a mess. And if you look at WCW in 2000, that perfectly exemplifies that. You look at situations like at WrestleMania 15 where Billy Gunn's going for the IC title, Road Dogg's going for the Hardcore title. He swaps them and then completely takes the heat away from both title matches at WrestleMania. Yeah, those are situations where it's damaging, but again, it's like Thanos says, perfectly balanced, like all things should be. There's got to be like a right balance to making those things matter and making those things work. And hey, if I had all the answers, I would do it myself, but I'm not that smart. So I'll leave that up to the people who get paid to do this for a living. But yeah, we shall see. We've got Forbidden Door coming up, which actually, I mean, it's a pay-per-view concept I'm not overly in love with, because AEW has foreign talents over all the time, so I don't really see what the real attraction is in doing this. But to be fair, I'm kind of intrigued by the Ospreay Swerve match. I'm kind of intrigued by the, against all odds, the women's title match, because the storyline they have going with Mariah May being torn between the two is actually, it's not a cold match. They've actually got something going there. And I do enjoy watching Toni Storm, so there's that. But in any case, we'll have to see where all of that goes. We've got All In coming up. That's going to be their next major show for AEW. We've got SummerSlam coming up in August. So August is going to be a big month. And right now we're just kind of waiting and seeing what gets shaped up for that moving forward. Seth Rollins is back. That was also another big thing that happened on Raw this week. But I think that is all I have for you now. I know this wasn't much of a return video. This is just me being like, hey, I'm back. Here's what was going on. And here's me kind of playing catch up with the rest of professional wrestling. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. And if you want to participate in the next Q&A video, which I don't know when that's happening, but you can send your questions to the email address listed down below. But that is all I have for you now. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and I will see you all later.